St. Mark's Gospel this morning is one of the earliest writings that we have in the Gospels, and it's a very human story. Jesus is in the boat with his disciples, and the disciples realize they do not have enough bread. They only have one loaf. And Jesus takes that moment really to be a teaching moment for them. Not unlike a moment for us when we've gone fishing. And so let me check. How many of you have been fishing? How many have been fishing? All right. Almost all of you. Wonderful. Well, in the boat, you know that snacks are important. And you need to have something to drink too. And so it was for the disciples looking at that one loaf of bread saying, this is not going to be enough for us to eat. No way. No way. And so they bring the question to Jesus of what to do. Now, Jesus takes it as really a true moment to teach them. And it's like very much now he's teaching us and saying something to us. So the question becomes really, as Jesus speaks to the disciples, he says, don't trust in the works of men. Trust in the works, really, of God. That's why he talks about Herod and the leaders of the day. He says, don't trust in their work. Trust in the work of God. Because the work of men is passing. And the work of God is meant to be eternal, meant to call us into a very special love relationship. So that's why he brought up the miracles of the feeding of the 5,000 and the feeding of the 4,000. And he said, how much did you have left? And one of the miracles, he had 12 baskets left. That's the 12 tribes of Israel. So in other words, all the people of God would be fed. And then the 4,000, there were 7 baskets left. And that's really a perfect number. I mean, it's a God number. That means God has fed his people. God has fed his people. And they were satisfied. They were satisfied. Well, I took that gospel to heart over time in my own life. And when I was your age, I had a moment that took place for me which was life-threatening. I had internal bleeding, and we didn't know what was going on. Eventually ended up in the hospital and eventually had surgery. And Dr. Thomas Spann was the one who did the surgery for me, took my appendix out, and then fixed the problem I had internally. But in the hospital, I realized really, and it wasn't as clear then as it is now, that gospel was really about my hospital stay. What was I trusting in? What was I trusting in became the real question. Or who was I trusting in? And there was also another revelation, and that is that this body is passing. This body is not forever. This body is passing. And so the question came to me is, what really matters? What really matters in life? What really matters in my relationship with others and my relationship with God? And the answer really for me came in a vocation really touched in my heart. That my call to holiness was being to live out as someone who had a lasting effect on people's lives. I knew I could have been a teacher. I knew I could have been a CEO of a company. But I heard a call, and by the way, footnoting, I knew I could play football too, by the way, footnote. And the call, though, I heard was to really look at eternity and what really lasts. The disciples in the gospel were looking at the bread, thinking, how can our bodies be fed? And Jesus was saying, don't look at the bread. It's not about the bread. I can take the bread in my hands right now in the boat and make as much bread as you want. What really matters is what happened in the miracle of the loaves and the fish. That's what really matters in life. That the loaves and the fish say, God taking care of us. God loving us into being. God helping us to really grow in our relationship with Him, but also our relationship with others. And that God will feed us. That brings us to this Mass, gathered here at Our Lady of the Gulf, gathered in this church, in front of this altar. And we are really being invited to touch eternity by receiving His body and blood, or simply by our time of prayer here in this church. God calling us to look at the bread and to know that the bread is changed into His body and His blood. It's really a wow moment. It's a moment of eternity. It's a moment lasting. It's a moment of heaven. It's one of the reasons why I'm a priest. And of course, one of the reasons I'm a bishop. So God calls us into that special relationship as He was calling the disciples in the gospel. He's saying to us, there's more to life than what you see. There's more to life than what you experience. And God's love and God's grace is right in front of you. We just have to have the eyes of faith and hope to really see it. That's why He gives us His body and His blood at this altar. So gathered together, let's open our hearts to His love. Knowing, yes, that these bodies are passing, but even more than that, God loves us into being. And the love of Jesus Christ is really calling us in a personal way to be one with Him, especially in His body and His blood.